liberty. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard the Indiana Sports Beat. Thanks a lot for joining us and taking us along wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate you taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride as we're coming to you at this new time of 9 to 11 a.m. on each day. Looking forward to that. Get a lot more involvement from the listeners. Thanks a lot for joining us. Jake's at the wheel, keeping things on the track. We got a lot to get to and a big program on tap today. Indiana basketball target Anthony Leal from Bloomington South High School will join me. He was in action all weekend at the Charlie Hughes Classic up in Carmel, up in Indianapolis. Mike Schumann was there from the Daily Hoosier. He's going to be here too, so we'll talk about that. There was a lot. Anybody that was anybody in Indiana high school basketball was there playing, so tons of action. We'll talk about who did what. NBA free agency, the NBA Summer League gets underway, and IU baseball news. Thomas Bryant gets a fat check. David Bailey's back in the news. And we'll hear from Todd Leary as well. But, wow, what a weekend of NBA free agency. We've just seen things blow up.
I have no idea who plays where anymore.
I swear. I'm trying to, as best I can, put together a scorecard. But for the Pacers, Collison retires. So you can just put a line through his name. Bogdanovich went to Utah. They lost two others. I had it out in front of me a minute ago.
They lost Thaddeus Young.
Oh, yeah. He signed to like an $85 million contract with somebody. Everybody's getting paid, let me tell you. Everybody is getting paid. Big time. Over $3 billion contracted out in like 6 hours yesterday. That came from Scott Agnes, friend of the show, from The Athletic. $3 billion. That's with a B. Billion. Thomas Bryant, former Hoosier, he getting paid. He gave him a nice new 3-year, $25 million contract. That's not KD money, but that's all right. I'll take the $25 million. I promise you.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it ain't KD money, but that's okay. KD, Kevin Durant, he had the option of signing a 4-year, $164 million deal with another team, or a 5-year, $220 million deal with the Warriors. He opted to leave and take the lesser amount, and he heads to Brooklyn. But also Brooklyn picked up, I don't know if it's official yet, but Kyrie Irving, and there's one more.
DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah. The thing is, though, Kevin Durant is not going to play next year. He's got a year to recover from an Achilles injury. So, yeah, it looks good on paper and all, but that's a year from now, man. Who the hell knows what's going to happen with those guys a year from now? But a lot of flipping around, man. Yeah, like Jake said, I have no idea who plays for whom right now. We'll wait till that all gets worked out. But, yeah, the Pacers, they also make some great pickups. The Pacers picked up to fill the void in their roster. You get that pulled back up as well. I just had that right in front of me.
They got Malcolm Brogdon, I know for sure.
Yeah, is that the point guard?
Yes, he played at Milwaukee.
They picked up a point guard. They picked up a shooting guard, which will give them some relief until Oladipo gets back in. But I think they picked up what they wanted to get. Klay Thompson, did he get a max deal? I'm just learning all that lingo. This keeps changing. Max deals now.
I haven't seen any news about Clay, but that was kind of weird that nobody had heard anything about him.
But anyway, lots of movement. Hey, NBA Summer League action gets underway today as well. And you can see Juwan Morgan. One of two games tonight. The Jazz play at 9 p.m. Juwan Morgan on that roster. He should be playing. So that gets underway. Looking forward to watching the Summer League because you get to see a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. The schedule begins today, like I said. I think it runs for, 2 weeks? Is that right? Jake?
I think so. I think it runs till the 15th, I'm pretty sure.
Spurs and the Cavaliers play at 7. The Jazz play the Grizzlies tonight. And more Spurs, Grizzlies tomorrow. More Cavs, Jazz tomorrow. No, they switch up, I guess. Man, those teams playing all week. Next Monday, you got the Heat and the Lakers, Warriors and the Kings. It'll be exciting. It'll be fun. Still waiting to see if Romeo's going to play. Ironically, Detroit is playing Croatia on Friday, July 5th. How about that? Wow, and China. China plays Miami in a scheduled game. So I didn't know this. I was not aware that they were including outside foreign teams into the NBA Summer League. Let's see who else is maybe in. Indiana, I'm kidding. Oh, they are in it. They're just not a foreign country. That's the only two that I see. Yeah, there's Croatia again. Croatia and China, but how about that? Well, there you go. But you can find the schedule anywhere. But it begins today. Tim texts in, anything on Archie's search for a new assistant? Have not heard a thing. Reached out. And I expect this to be wrapped up, though, within 2 weeks. But who's available? This is a funky time of year. Talked about this with Kevin Brockway the other day. Who's available? This is a funky time of year. You got guys like Michael Lewis who was available just a couple of weeks ago. But he just signed on out in Los Angeles and may have already had his family moved. I don't know. But guys are involved in recruiting for their programs right now. Another text in, I like Louisville. What's all the hype on their upcoming season if they have NCAA sanctions coming and still can't believe they got the players they got for this year without uncertainty over the investigation? And I sound a little more chippy at 9 a.m. Yes. Thank you. It's easier to be chippier at 9 a.m. I assure you. But Louisville, they got a good team. They got a good coach. But I think that, they're looking at this year's team because nothing's going to happen this year. Nothing. I don't think that anything will happen through this season, personally. But after that, Louisville's got a little trouble coming. There are dark days ahead for that program. I see no doubt of that. But it's going to be interesting to see what the NCAA does here. Louisville's a unique situation. They were already on double secret probation when they got busted. for their involvement in the FBI investigation and corruption into college basketball with Adidas and all that. So it'll be interesting. But they're expected to have a good upcoming season. So talking about the here and the now, I guess. But they certainly are. Some news for Indiana baseball. Justin Walker, he's transferring to Purdue, which is ironic because I believe Jeremy Houston, their other shortstop, transferred from Purdue. That's kind of odd. Sam Crail also transferring out. Not sure of his destination unknown. Justin Walker played the last half of the season at shortstop. Surprising to see that he took over the starting position. Played in a ton of games, started a bunch. So that's a little surprising. We'll talk a lot more about the NBA free agency stuff later in the week. Scott Agnes will be with us on Thursday, of course, as he always is. But who knows what happens between now? Is it over with yet?
I think most people have signed. There's one big name out there in Kawhi Leonard.
Are you talking about me?
No.
Oh, okay. I was hoping that there was still a chance.
You could probably still play for a 10-day. I mean, you just got to go get in the summer league, get on a team there, and you just got to work your way up.
Yeah, I don't know if I can make all that happen this short a time. League starting tonight and all. Archie's just going to have to go steal an assistant from another Blue Blood program. Text into the show. Well, don't know that he can get that done since, well, recruiting hasn't exactly gone well. So I'm not sure how well recruiting from another Blue Blood program would do much good, because I'm going to say they're having success right now. Because I can't think of another Blue Blood program that is not. Hence the title Blue Blood program. Hey, before I forget, tomorrow on the program, how about Indiana high school, Indiana Hoosier, and just all around basketball legend George McGinnis on the program tomorrow. Wow. That's kind of up there. For people I've had the pleasure to speak with, yeah, that's up there. George McGinnis was a badass on the court. I mean, ridiculously stupid good. At an early, young age. The things he could have done in college, oh my gosh. He played one season at Indiana. I mean, he was probably there for two, since freshmen were not eligible, but his sophomore season. But wow. Can you imagine the numbers that dude could have put up? He played one season, was an All-American. He was all-world. All-NBA. Looking forward to that. But today on the show, Anthony Leo, IU basketball target from Bloomington South, will join us. We'll talk about his recruiting. We'll talk about his weekend up at the Charlie Hughes Classic in Carmel. A lot of battles up there, man. A lot of great battles between IU targets, between just overall good players. Trey Kaufman had a great weekend. We'll talk about all that. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier, he'll join as well. He was there. I opted not to go. But plenty to get to. Thanks a lot for joining us. Hey, we got Todd Leary coming up next here on Indiana Sports Beat. We're back with more right after this from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lewis, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for it each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Bid farewell to old Kentucky, the place where I was born and raised, the place where he was born and raised.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Jim Coyle with you as always, and very appropriate. We got our own soggy bottom boy with us today. Todd Leary joins us.
What's up, boss?
How you doing, man?
I'm good.
It stopped raining. It stopped raining. I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, we've had 4 or 5 sunny days in a row. It's been pretty nice.
Absolutely. Hey, Ever had any interest in coaching?
Say that again?
I said, have you ever had any interest in coaching? I know of an opening.
Yeah. I wish I had what was going on with that. Sure.
That's kind of came as a surprise to a lot of us, a lot of people, everybody, I guess most people say, but it really isn't. I mean, Ed Schilling was the lead recruiter for Indiana, and right now they sit with the 54th ranked recruiting class. And I know that they've got a couple of good pieces coming in within the state, but those 2 blank scholarships that are sitting empty really, I think, is going to hurt Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not necessarily sure that I'm just not a believer in filling those spots just because they're available. I mean, I know it would have been nice to have been able to put people in that position, maybe a little earlier on, that if you could have predicted who exactly was going to be there. But, I'm just not one of those guys that thinks because you have 2 scholarships open that you have to fill them.
Right. I guess the biggest issue is next year they'll go in because of Jerome Hunter not being available as of right now, and I'm not sure how good it's going to be that he does make it back, but they'll end up with having only 10 scholarship players available. And after seeing what happened last year with all the injuries, it didn't take long for that roster to get pared down.
Yeah, no, it didn't. And
all right, we lost Todd there. We'll get him back on the line here in just a second. But talking about the fact that those 2 scholarships are open, and Todd talking about not filling them just to fill them, which is something Archie has been consistent about saying, and it makes sense. But I think we've got Todd back now. But, yeah, not filling them just to fill them is obviously not something you want to do. But going in there a little light after what happened last year seems to be potential problems down the road for Indiana.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people look at the scenario that's going on, and Indiana hasn't had the success the last 2 seasons, I would guess, but specifically this last season that they wanted. And so everyone's going to jump on recruiting as the issue right now, and because that's really all there is to talk about. We can't talk about how they just played or didn't play well or aren't meshing together or things like that. I mean, I'm not sold on the fact that they need to hurry and rush out and fill those scholarships with just to have bodies out there. But I also get what you're saying. I mean, it's definitely a situation that they're going to have to overachieve based on what position players we know they have right now, and guys are going to have to improve and step up and play better than they have played and above their abilities. And that's kind of what you and I talked about throughout the season, was this is a team that we're waiting for somebody to play above their abilities. And I think Juwan Morgan did that. And beyond that, I'm not sure you could say anyone else played above their abilities throughout the season. And that's what this team is going to have to do next year.
Yeah, 2 of the most glaring holes was not having a backup point guard for Rob Finnessy, and that showed itself when he went down with an injury last year. And also obviously the shooting is a hole that they need to fill, but neither of those were they able to get accomplished. Why do you think? Obviously, Indiana is not the Indiana of old, but still to go 0 for 20 on the national recruiting side is a little different, even for Indiana.
Yeah, it is. You know my opinion on that. Like, I don't believe in the ranking systems that they have, or rating, or however you want to call it. I mean, the players that get rated high are the guys who play on the right AAU teams, and the right amount of money is being donated to the right people, and they rate them higher. And I've seen several programs be very successful throughout the years without worrying about having 3 top 20 guys coming in a recruiting class. So, I'm sounding pessimistic right now because I just don't think that right now worrying about the recruiting side of it. I mean, let's worry about the guys that we have, and let's worry about how they play together, because that's going to be the issue. I didn't think last year's team meshed very well and played together very well. And I thought there was a lot of times when they, it just didn't look like they get along and were having fun. And it's not supposed to be all fun and games, but you've got to get along and enjoy playing with each other in order to be successful. And I think if you watched Virginia at the end of the year last year, how excited they all were for each other. It wasn't about who scored what or who did what. It was about winning. And that's what we want to see this team get to. And, I wasn't sure last year's makeup, that was their number one goal when they went out there. I think there was a lot of guys thinking about what they were going to be doing in their professional careers later on. And, I'm not disappointed that we're probably not going to have that same issue going on this year.
And then the big question, of course, is which direction does Archie go to fill that spot? There's been talk, there's one faction of people that would like to see an assistant on the staff with some IU connections. Because right now on that staff, they have no one with Indiana or IU connections. I'm not of the school that you have to have an IU guy in there. But I think in this situation on the staff, it might be good. But Greg Graham was on not too long ago, and he's very strong about thinking that they should have somebody on there with IU connections that would help out in one way or another. But not everybody thinks the same way.
Yeah, I'm 50-50 on that. Like, I think that it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt my feelings any for there to be some IU guys on there. But I consider Archie an IU guy now. I mean, he bleeds IU red as much as anyone. So, I mean, it doesn't take very long to convert and be an IU person. And I think that Archie is an IU guy now. And having someone, I think what a lot of people want to hear is they want someone from the Bob Knight era. It's not necessarily an IU person. They want a Bob Knight guy. And a lot of the guys I played with, I think would be super qualified and be great at it. Calvert and Greg and a lot of those guys, but I'm also not sitting here saying I don't think they can be successful if they don't have someone from the Bob Knight era. But, obviously I'd love to see one of the guys that I played with or that I watched play and, I've rooted for over the years. I'd love to see one of them there, but I don't think it's imperative for them to be successful.
Yeah, life's about timing. I mean, how close were they to having the availability to at least talk to Michael Lewis, who was available up until about 2 weeks ago? Yeah, no, that's unfortunate for Indiana because he is one guy I do think would have been a great fit for them. And, he just would, I think he has all the facts. He would be a good recruiter. He's a good sideline coach. He's a good practice coach. So there's just so many things with him I think would be positive. So that's unfortunate that he wasn't available, but it's good for him. I think he's in a great situation out at UCLA. He's also one of those guys that is going to bring a little fire with him, and no doubt about that. Seemed to be missing from that team last year. Yeah, you and I love that side of his style of coaching, and he'll get up in your face, and that's what I always responded the best to, and I think he's kind of one of those guys. And just there's a lot of staffs across the country that don't have anyone like that. It's just kind of a different world and a different coaching and recruiting world, and there's not a lot of people that are willing to still get in your face and tell you the stuff you're doing wrong instead of how great you are all the time. And I think that's one of the attributes that Michael brings to any program and coaching staff. Switching back to what Indiana has coming back, Armand Franklin and Trace Jackson Davis, two new faces, Indiana recruits, hometown or home state guys coming in, added with that grad transfer Joey Brunk, another Indiana kid. But those are three good pieces coming in. Joey Brunk's just a solid piece. Trace Jackson Davis, a 5-star with a lot of upside and a lot of potential to a great future for Indiana. Yep, no doubt about it. I think if people are worried about recruiting, I think they should just focus on what is coming in and the possibilities of what could be. I mean, when Indiana doesn't have big guys, they always blame not being able to win on not being able to rebound or defend in the post. And that shouldn't be the case coming in this season. They've got those two guys that you mentioned. I think Joey Brunk was just starting to get super comfortable with his way he played and being able to slow the game down at Butler, and I think he's going to do very well at Indiana. And then Jackson Davis, I mean, that's just a guy that has so much potential. I mean, if he had the kind of year that he's capable of, he could be a one and done.
but also he could be a 3 or 4 year player for you as well. So I think Indiana is looking for some really good things out of those big guys coming in, and this will be a different type of team. I mean, it may be the kind of team Archie's a little bit more comfortable with, and a little bit slower team, bringing it down the floor and pounding it in, and he'll have some guys to guard the paint, and this may be the kind of team that Archie is a little bit more comfortable coaching.
I think you're right, and I hadn't thought about that until you laid it out like that, but absolutely. A lot more pieces that he's more accustomed to, but more his guys as well. And I know people probably get tired of hearing that, but I think there's a lot of truth to that when guys come in that they're on a staff that they weren't recruited by. There are some differences.
Yeah, that's a weird scenario and a weird situation. I mean, as you get older, you deal with those situations in the job world when you go into a place where, you get different bosses and different people that didn't necessarily hire you, and you have to adapt, and you have to adapt to new styles and be able to do some different things, and they may have different expectations of you. And that's what these guys deal with when they come in as freshmen, and that's what they deal with when a new coaching staff comes in. So there's a lot of different pieces that have to fall together. That's why I'm not as worried about the 5 stars as a lot of the fan base is, because I want guys that are going to be able to play well and play together and get along and look like they're having fun. And that's more what I'm looking for. And when they do that, I think they're a lot more successful. And I think they've got to make up to be able to do that. I mean, the expectations were so high with Romeo last year that, if they didn't make it to the Final 8 or Final 4, I think it was going to be a disappointment. And, I think that's the result of what ended up happening, obviously, with not even making the tournament. So it was, I think this team will have lower expectations from a fan base, but I don't think their expectations will be any lower. I actually think they will have a couple more years under their belt and figure that they're going to be able to play well throughout the year, or play better throughout the year, and not have the ups and downs they had last season.
Talking with former Hoosier great Todd Leary. He talked about Romeo, Todd, just, of course, drafted by the Boston Celtics last week as the number 14 pick, the last lottery slot going to Boston. A great landing spot for him. He gets to go up and play for Brad Stevens, and I can't imagine a better spot that Romeo could have landed in the NBA.
Well, there's one thing being drafted, and you really don't have any control over where you go and all that. And it's not like recruiting in college where you get to pick it. And so there's kind of 2 lotteries that go along. There's the lottery pick, what number you end up being, but then there's also, you kind of win another lottery if Brad Stevens picks you, because he seems to be able to make people successful. You are exactly right. I said it when he got drafted, that if he's going to be successful, he is at the right team and the right program and the right coaching staff. And, I don't think that Romeo could have come out of that draft with a better selection and a better opportunity for him to have a great professional career.
What is it? Obviously, you're a high-level player. So what is it about Brad Stevens that makes him so different from these other coaches? That he's able to get the things done that he does.
I look at a lot of it like Coach K at the college ranks, in that not only does he have a good system, but he's able to fit his system to the players that he has. He's able to develop those players. And I think that you could go all the way back to the Butler guys, and they will all tell you that he is a player's coach and one of the few people that's able to incorporate his system and get guys to buy into it and still like him, and still want to play for him, and still want to play hard, and still want to do those things. And that's just one of the incredible benefits that he brings. And that's what, you've got to give Danny Ainge a ton of credit for recognizing that. And I think a lot of people thought maybe Brad Stevens would have a short stint in the NBA and then be back to college. But I think Danny Ainge recognized what a important piece he has, and probably a guy that, at the end of his coaching career will be, one of the 5 or 10 best of all time, because he's going to continue to develop these teams that, may not have quite the talent that the other ones have. And they're going to go on a run where they win 2 or 3 championships over a 5 or 6 year period. And I don't think there's any doubt that that'll happen. It's just a matter of when that's going to be.
You've seen Romeo's game. What is it that Brad Stevens can do for Romeo to help him succeed at the NBA level?
I think they'll figure out a way to make him more consistent. They'll figure out a way to get him the ball in positions where he's going to the basket and can score and do those kinds of things. I think that's his real strength. Romeo finishing at the rim is probably his number one strength right now, and that won't change when he gets to the NBA. Even though guys are bigger and faster and stronger, Romeo just has a little bit different finishing ability than a lot of guys have. And so he'll continue on with that. But I think Brad Stevens will help him develop a more consistent shot. I think that he will, figure out a way to probably get some more defensive steals and improve his defensive end of the floor, which will improve his offense. He'll get him out on the break and get him some easier baskets. And I think Brad Stevens will figure out a way to make Romeo successful rather than a lot of programs I think he would end up at. They would say, Romeo has to change his game and do this because this is what we need him to do. And that's what I think Brad Stevens' biggest asset is.
How about the Indiana connection to Boston right now? Obviously, Romeo just went there. They also picked up Carson Edwards. You've got Gordon Hayward and of course, Brad Stevens. So they have got a very, very strong Indiana flavor there for the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, they do. And I tell you what, Carson Edwards is going to be – if he's not a successful pro player, then I'll be surprised because that's a guy who could score the basketball. He's electric. He can go on a roll. He can get hot. I'm as excited to watch him play as maybe anybody that got drafted. So other than Zion, obviously. But that's a fun team to be able to watch. It's fun for Indiana fans who maybe are not the biggest Pacer fans in the world, which I'm a huge Pacer fan, but if I'm not rooting for the Pacers, I will definitely be rooting for the Celtics because it's fun to have that connection and be able to see, those guys hopefully be successful at that level also.
Absolutely. I guess you could say the same thing for Carson Edwards, although he's got a great shot, so he didn't need as much help. But going to play under Brad Stevens can only help his career as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. If that guy was going to be successful, he probably could go to some different programs just because of his ability to be able to score with the ball all the time. He doesn't need someone to pick for him or get him open, but that is a guy who, I think Brad Stevens will have some fun figuring out how to use him and different ways to use him. And anyone, like I said, it's kind of a lottery system and where you get drafted. But it's also, you kind of win a secondary lottery if you get drafted by Brad Stevens and that whole system they have going. So I think Carson Edwards will benefit from that as well.
Absolutely. So what's going on with Todd Leary? What's new with Todd and what's happening with him?
Well, I am actually sitting graveside right now with a family waiting for me to step out of the car and help them with the burial they've got going on. So Todd Leary's in Evansville right now, working at Sunset Memorial Park, and we have 3 burials today. So you want to know exactly what I'm doing? That's exactly what I'm doing right now, bud.
All right. Well, there you go. Well, I appreciate you joining us, man. I'll let you get back to it so you can get to work.
Everybody waits for Jim Coyle.
Hey, I think everybody's waiting for Todd Leary.
No. All right.
All right, brother. I appreciate you. Have a great weekend, man. Thank you, Todd.
You too.
Hey, we got a lot more coming up on the program today. Stay tuned. We're coming back with more Indiana Sports Beat from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back right after this.
I don't need no cure. I just stay affected if I can for sure. All the good when we're all alone.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for it each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hi, this is AJ Moye, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Well, welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, of course, coming to you from the golf club at Eagle Point Studios. Jake getting a little funky there. Funky monkey. Oh, no pun intended. Hey, talking about this crazy free agency of the NBA right now. It's going nuts. The Indiana Pacers acquired Malcolm Brogdon, as we talked about earlier. Just 8 players ever have had a 50-40-90 season. The first 7, Larry Bird, Reggie Miller, Mark Price, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry. The 8th, Malcolm Brogdon. There you go. That's courtesy of Tim. Good catch there.
The 50-40-90 club is...
It's over 3 years? What's that?
So the 50-40-90 club is shooting percentage at over 50% field goals, 40% for three-pointers, and 90% for free throws.
There you go. Well, that's who the Pacers acquired. That's why they're extraordinarily excited. And can you imagine when that gets paired with Victor Oladipo, if we can get him healthy?
Malcolm Brogdon is a very good defender too. Like he's going to play hard all game, and he came from Virginia, didn't he?
I don't remember. Kyle Schwarber got moved to leadoff for the Cubbies, and that was in May. Since then, 12 of his 18 home runs have happened. He's had 26 hits in 28 days. I watched him over the weekend. Thanks, Tim. Playing the Reds. The Reds win the series with the Cubs, man. They take 2 out of 3 from them. But Schwarbs, I looked up, he's got a double one time, and he's become a hitting machine. Congratulations to Schwarbs. And to Thomas Bryant. I need a loan, man. Got bank $25 million. Kemba Walker to Boston. The Celtics. That's a great pickup for them. A lot of moving parts, man. This is a weird. The NBA free agency is like none other. You're talking franchise changing trades always happen now during this. It has become that. It's just become the price is right. It's just to spin the wheel and who you get, who you can get. Here's a suggestion for IU's next assistant coach. How about let's get Corey Alexander for our next assistant coach? He played in the NBA for 10 seasons. He's been an assistant now for Oak Hill Academy for the last 4 years. He was also an assistant coach for Team Takeover's U16 team, one of the top travel programs in the country. So he may be able to recruit some of the top players for Indiana. Well, probably not a bad look or bad, have a look-see. They got to do something. And it has to be centered around recruiting. Somebody's got to recruit. Somebody has got to be able to bring that talent, that top talent in. Right now they have, I think, the 54th rated recruiting class in the country with Trace Jackson and Armand coming in, 2 great players who are going to be very valuable for Indiana, but they also have 2 blanks. But this next hire is going to be all about recruiting. Not only that, this is a very, very important hire for Archie Miller. This is a point that will be looked at a year from now, I think, or possibly 2 years, but this is going to be looked at as where it started to take off or the opposite. Because something has to change. I mean, they obviously, I just can't. Missing the tournament next year is really not an option, I don't think. I think you miss the tournament again next year. That seat is extraordinarily warm. Very hot. So recruiting has got to pick up for Indiana. I know a lot of people, a lot of diehard fans think recruiting's great because they've got the last 2 Mr. Basketballs. Well, before you get all excited about that, Indiana inherited Romeo. Let's just be straight up honest about that. They didn't land him. They inherited him because of Louisville's problems, and he was not going any further away. Indiana was the next closest school to home, and that's how that was going to work. But recruiting is the linchpin, obviously, of any program. And it has got to take an uptick for Indiana. Now, obviously, they've got some great in-state prospects. Galloway and Leal, to me, I think personally they're the locks for IU. I think both will definitely end up at Indiana. Let's just say that. But that's the low-hanging fruit. And by that I mean it's because they're Indiana kids, which is great. But you've also got to be able to land that top talent no matter where it comes from. If it's a point guard or something that you specifically need that you're trying to land, got to be able to get those guys, man. And I've seen recruiting a little stronger in leaner times. So it is definitely evidence of a loss of appeal nationally by kids for Indiana. It's not meant as a slight. It's just a reflection of facts. Hopefully that changes, but hopefully this hire will help change that, and that's the whole point. I mean, a lot of people say that they really want an Indiana guy. I think you need the best candidate. I don't care where they're from. I think you need the best candidate, period. Why would that not be the case? Why would you not want the best candidate, period? If that happens to be an IU guy, that's outstanding. Now, I know sometimes you force that stuff to work. And I've said that I think that they need an IU guy on the staff. I think they need an IU guy on staff to help remind him this is Indiana and the connections to the past. Don't lose that stuff. Don't lose how important rivalries are to Purdue, for example. When you have an entire staff that has no connection, that kind of gets lost, possibly. Who knows? Maybe not. But overall, I still think you have to you hire the best candidate. You just have to. Especially right now for recruiting purposes. Now, we could throw a bunch of names out and banner them around, but to me, that's almost pointless. Unless that information is coming from inside, I'm not going to do that, because why just talk about something for the sake of talking about it that may have no chance of ever happening? But I think that issue will be resolved within 2 weeks for sure. They've got to move relatively quickly. You've got to get somebody out there. You've lost that third guy, but you need that guy that has those connections. Because Ed Schilling was thought to be that guy, and it just didn't work out. Who knows why? It may not even be his fault. Maybe it's the Indiana thing. Maybe it's the fact that they lost 12 straight games last year. Let's don't forget that. Maybe it's the fact that they haven't made the NCAA tournament in the last few years. Maybe that's the reason for the recruiting dip. But it can certainly be resolved, and hopefully it will be. Hopefully it will be with this next hire. But like I said, this is a very, very important hire for Archie Miller. If Corey Alexander is that guy, hey, or someone like him. Well, I think we'll certainly find out within 2 weeks. They just can't let that go too long. And again, I talked about the timing. But if somebody wants to come here, they're going to come here. And I don't see it being – I don't see this hire ended up being an IU guy. I bet it's not. Just my personal guess. Hey, we got a lot coming up on the program today. Anthony, Leo IU basketball target from Bloomington South, will join us in the next hour. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier as well. Both were up at the Charlie Hughes Classic in Indianapolis over the weekend. That, a lot more to talk about. Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat back right after this. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios.
It's a nice day to start again. Hey, little sister, who is it you're with?
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Greg Green. Keep up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
This hour is brought to you by Sweetland Waste and Removal Service, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995.
Well, we're coming your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard. Thanks a lot for taking Indiana Sports Beat along for the ride, wherever you're going, whatever you may be doing. We appreciate you taking Indiana Sports Beat with you. From the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Jim Coyle with you as always. Jake's at the wheel, keeping things on the track. Lots to get to today at packed show. Anthony Leo, Indiana basketball target from Bloomington South, will join us. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier will join us. Both were at the Charlie Hughes Classic over the weekend up in Indianapolis. Anybody who's everybody playing Indiana basketball was there. Talk about that. NBA free agency has gone nuts, man. Over $3 billion contracted yesterday in I think a 6-hour period. Former Hoosier Thomas Bryant gets his, baby. Show me the money. 3 years, $25 million. I'll take it. Thank you very much. It's not KD money, but it spends the same. KD, of course, a blockbuster deal for Brooklyn, leaving Golden State. He turned down a 5-year, $220 million offer for a 4-year, $164 million offer from Brooklyn. Also, Kyrie Irving will be heading there. But the thing is, KD's not going to be around for a year. So it's kind of all blockbuster, but then it all fizzles out a little bit because he won't be playing for a year. The Pacers, of course, they lost a fourth of the roster, it seemed like. Darren Collison retires. Who went everywhere, Jake? There's three of them that I know you had Thaddeus Young. He left. He signed a big deal.
Yeah, Thad Young went to the Bulls. Bogdanovich went to Utah. Did they lose anybody else?
There was one other, Corey something. Anyway, doesn't matter. What matters is what they picked up. They pick up Jeremy Lamb and Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon, a name that unless you watch the NBA, you probably don't know. But there have only been 8 members ever to have a 50-40-90 season, 50% shooting, 40% from behind the three-point line, 90% free throws. Only 8 guys ever. Larry Bird, Reggie Miller, Mark Price, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, and Malcolm Brogdon. That's why the Pacers are all jacked up. They should be. That's impressive. I mean, that's over 82 games. Those are what you call Hall of Famers. So the Pacers they came out very well. Came out very well. Damon Bailey, former Hoosier, great Indiana high school all-time scoring leader, inducted into the National High School Hall of Fame over the weekend. Dusty Baker also went in. How about that? That was kind of cool. We get to hear from Damon, and the remarks he makes about talks about making money, and he says some more than others. He's talking about Dusty Baker. He kind of pats him on the arm. He was right next to him, so it drew a laugh. But here's what it sounded like when Damon Bailey went into the National High School Hall of Fame.
Thank you. What I treasure the most about high school sports is what high school sports really means. A lot of us up here have gone on and made a lot of money. Some of us a little more than others. Have gone on and made a lot of money doing something that we love. And when we're doing it at the high school level, you're playing with your friends. You're playing to represent your community. You're not doing it for the money. The people up here that coach, that are in education, definitely are not doing it for the money. They're doing it because of a love and a passion for the game. And for me, high school sports is the highest level that, where the purity is still there. You're not doing it for any other reason other than that passion to go out and compete and all the life lessons that you can learn throughout the game and throughout athletics can carry us on in life. Not every kid that plays high school sports is going to get a college scholarship. Not every kid is going to play professionally, but everything that they learn along the way is something that they can take with them into that next position. Whether it's teaching, whether it's a doctor, lawyer, whatever it is, are the things that I treasure the most, and and very thankful for high school sports.
Hey, that's Damon Bailey, former Hoosier great, all-time leading scorer in Indiana high school basketball. Man, one of the things I was fortunate, one of the 41,046, whatever the exact number was. I used to have that thing memorized, but back in 91, or was it 90? It was 90. Back in 1990 at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, those last 11 points that he scored, it was phenomenal. He literally took the game over. He brought the ball up the floor. He did it. He scored the last 11 points and won the state championship pretty much by himself. Yeah, he's something, man. He's something. But congratulations to him. But that was pretty cool going in with Dusty Baker. That drew a pretty good laugh. So congratulations to Damon Bailey going into the National High School Hall of Fame. Hey, man, a big day tomorrow on the show. Another legend, one of the legends. You talk a former Indiana great, All-American, Pacer, Indiana High School, undefeated state champion, Naismith Hall of Famer, all-around badass. George McGinnis will be on the show tomorrow. Man, I'm looking forward to that. We'll also hear from Trey Galloway tomorrow. So, man, big week already. Just now getting into it. It's already gigantic, Jake.
Big.
Kyle Schwarber, been knocking the ball, man. Tim said he got moved up to the leadoff spot in May. Since then, 12 of his 18 home runs have happened. He's had 26 hits in 28 days. I caught him a few times over the weekend playing against Cincinnati, but the Cubbies lost that series. Kimball Walker went to Boston and all that free agency stuff we were talking about. Be a teammate to Romeo Langford. Also, the NBA Summer League gets started tonight. Former Hoosier Juwan Morgan will be in action for the Jazz at 9 o'clock. Check your local listings. I'm sure that's on ESPN. Maybe the Ocho. Who knows? Maybe the Ocho. But, man, this free agency thing, it's crack. It's something. $3 billion in like 6 hours yesterday. These numbers, this is like monopoly money. It's crazy. I mean, it is literally crazy. I don't understand how that show. Those numbers are just, that means that everybody else is paying. You know that, right? The fans are paying that. So that just shows how much less expensive it could be. But it's called a free market society, man. The Knicks are not much of a free market. James Dolan, whoo! I said earlier, I think we were off the air, but I'm surprised because he's in New York that one of those crazy fans have just not assassinated him, man. It's just, wow. Brooklyn's about to become the deal, and the Knicks, the dump. It's bad. Jake, did you say they issued an apology letter?
Yeah, they did. I'm trying to find it. I'll go over it, but yeah, they sent out an apology letter to fans 3 hours after free agency started. It was
known this was going to happen. I was reading about it before it happened. the stuff with Brooklyn. IU baseball notes, Justin Walker, Sam Crail. Both guys played quite a bit last year. Justin Walker started the last half of the season. Both are transferring. Not sure where Sam Crail's going, but Justin Walker heading to Purdue. Ironically, I think Jeremy Houston, the shortstop who Justin took over for, transferred to Indiana from Purdue, if I remember that correctly. But that's a little surprising about Justin Walker. He started the last half of the season. But, oh well, there you go. Hey, we got a lot coming up. In the next segment, Anthony Leo, Indiana basketball target for Bloomington South, fresh off of a big-time weekend up at the Charlie Hughes Classic, joins us. Stay tuned. We're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Indiana Sports Beat back with more right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us Research Program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become 1 in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
Hi, this is AJ Moyer, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Of course, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Welcome in on this Monday. A big day. Anthony Leal, IU basketball target, Bloomington South basketball player. Big weekend, Anthony, up in Indianapolis with that Charlie Hughes Classic, man. What a bunch of battles went on.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend for me and my team just to be able to test ourselves against some of the other best teams and stuff. So it was good for us.
Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate you, Anthony. What is that like when that's not only is that the opportunity, like you just said, to compete like that, but man, those deals are tough. These are all day. You're in these hot gyms. I mean, everybody's doing it, but that's demanding on you to be able to play at that level and all that. That's a lot going on.
Yeah, it was a long weekend. We played only Friday, Saturday, so we were TM Friday, TM Saturday, but we even practiced Friday morning, so we were able to at least get a little loose, but that also kind of added to the fatigue for us a little bit. But it was fun because it got us out of our comfort zones, and it's going to end up paying off once the season rolls around.
Yeah, how much do you look back on these summer games, these summer weekends, when you're in the heart of IHSA play and late February when things are about to get dicey? How big are these games when that time rolls around?
Honestly, they really don't mean anything. Nothing in the summer really counts for anything, but just helping teams get better on what they need to work on. So.
Yeah, I don't mean as counting. I meant as how much do you look back on that and the developing, because you're getting to play against that kind of talent in that short, just one after another. You don't always get that during the regular season. But when you get to do this during these times, how much does that help you guys when you hit those big time games when it does count?
Yeah, it certainly helps us. And then being able to play 4 and within a matter of 48 hours is really good for us instead of during the high school season where you're playing maybe 1 or 2 games a week and you don't have that turnaround where you're playing right again. So it was good for us.
Talking with 4-star basketball recruit from Bloomington South High School, Anthony Leal, offers from all over the country now, and that's got to be fun. I mean, as a kid growing up, and I don't care where it is, but especially Indiana, growing up, and now you get all these offers from these big time programs. Stanford, another one. Obviously Indiana, but that's just got to be so cool having worked all your life and to get to this point and to see it to start to really take shape.
Yeah, it's certainly a blessing. It puts everything in perspective. Just how fortunate I am that everything I've been working for has started to pay off. But it's also a reminder that I have to keep working and keep getting better, just like everybody else around the country.
Talking about getting better, and we talked about this weekend. What were some of your favorite battles this weekend? There was a lot of great talent up there.
Mm-hmm. I really liked going against Silver Creek and Trey Kaufman and Cooper Jacoby. I had fun challenging myself guarding them since they're positions that I wouldn't normally guard at the 4 and 5, but I got to challenge myself and we were fortunate enough to get the win, so it was good.
Trey Kaufman had a great weekend, I saw. So another IU target, potential future teammate possibly one day. What's it like playing in these high school games with guys who might be your teammates sometime?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you don't really think about it while you're playing, because they're on the other team, obviously. So it's just do whatever you can to beat them. But afterwards, it's you're friends, you're close, you've talked before, so it's definitely interesting.
Talking with Anthony Leal for Bloomington South, a 4-star target for many programs around the country. Anthony, when did it start to really become real to you that, hey, this is real, I can really go someplace with this?
Mm-hmm. I'd probably say in the fall of my junior year, whenever me and my family started taking visits to various places throughout the Midwest or West Coast or whatever, I think just being able to see all these places and interact with all these coaches that are expressing how much they want me was really eye opening for me. And it was really cool, a really cool experience.
And you come from obviously a great basketball tradition there with J.R. Holmes and Bloomington South. You know, there's so many guys that have come before you that have been great ball players. Jordan Hull's one of those who just had camp out there and just returned from playing pro over in Europe right now. What's it like being a part of that heritage?
It pushes me to be better every day. It's just to be able to compete, whether it's on the record boards or with trying to get to a state championship in or anything like that. It pushes me to be able to keep that tradition of excellence going.
When it comes to recruiting, there's there can be a lot of pressures on it. You obviously got a lot of people contacting you. You've got a lot of relationships that you've got built. How difficult is it to manage all those multiple relationships over when they're courting you to play for them?
Yeah. Honestly, it's not that difficult because I feel like they're all really genuine and it's really like a caring relationship. So it's not anything that's like a burden on me, but it's really been interesting just to be able to get so close with so many different people and have it really be an authentic relationship.
And I don't know how many trips you've taken unofficially or whatnot to different programs, but what has it been like for the ones you have to see the differences between the programs, their facilities, and how they operate?
Yeah, I mean, as years go on, they get pretty similar as far as like facilities and all that kind of stuff because everyone's always upgrading to the newest stuff or whatever. But it's been interesting just to see how the coaches and the players react or interact with each other on a daily basis and how that differs between each university.
You know, you got a lot of guys chasing you, like I've said, a lot of coaches, programs, and whatnot. What is it that you want, though, in a program? What is it that you're looking for in a school where you want to go?
Mm-hmm. I'd love to be able to make an impact. I know it's not going to come where I can just ask the coach, can I have 30 minutes a game as a freshman? But I just want to be able to have a position where I can come in and compete for some sort of starting spot or just be able to play my role wherever that is. And then just being able to develop while also getting, obviously, at least a pretty good academic side of things so I can have something to do with life after basketball.
And what are some of the things that you're doing to prepare yourself for that level? Obviously, you're playing all these tournaments and whatnot, but what are some of the things that you've had to do on your own away from the team activities to improve your game, to really get it to that next level?
Just always being consistent in working out and stuff like that, being able to get shots up whenever, working on ball handling, stuff like that, and just staying in the weight room, getting stronger, just trying to keep up with everyone else in the country who's working on the same stuff.
Who's some of the guys that have helped you greatly or that you've looked up to, emulate, things of that nature?
Definitely my dad. He's number one up there, just always being a great mentor for me. But as far as like strictly basketball stuff, everyone on staff at my high school at Bloomington South has been there with advice whenever I need it. And then anyone in the Indiana Elite organization has done a great job just being there as a mentor and a guider and just people who really care about me.
Anthony, we're talking with Anthony Leal, 4-star basketball prospect. Do you have a timeline on when you're wanting to make a decision? Do you want to do this before the season starts, or what are you looking at in that way?
Yeah, I don't really have like a deadline when I need to do it by, but I would prefer to have it done before the high school season starts so then I can just focus on the team unit and just being able to achieve our highest potential as a team throughout the high school season, especially since it's my senior year.
And obviously, I saw you had an offer from Stanford, which is awesome because obviously, if anyone doesn't know, Stanford is one of the not only a great athletic institution, but they're one of the top academic institutions in the United States. So obviously, they think very highly of not only your ball playing but your intelligence. But that's got to be pretty cool to get an offer from someplace that far away.
Yeah, it was cool, but at the same time, every coach who's taken the time to recruit me and offer me has had the same impact on me, just being able to, put everything into perspective as to what I've put myself in the position to do. So it was definitely special, but every single offer I've gotten has been special in some way.
Talking with Anthony Leal, 2020 basketball prospect out of Bloomington South. And one other thing, Anthony, living in Bloomington, growing up in Bloomington, obviously there's no way that there's not going to be pressure on you from people to go to Indiana. How do you navigate that pressure of that and be able to make your own decision to where you want to go?
Mm-hmm. Well, in my mind, it's just all about perspective, because this pressure is just something that people outside of me can put on me. But if I don't let people outside of my life try to put pressure on me, then it can't really affect me. As long as I feel like I'm achieving what God wants me to do and just staying focused on what I've grown up knowing, then outside pressure really is irrelevant to everything I've done growing up and everything I will do in the future.
You know, you get the opportunity to play in all these tournaments and whatnot during the summer, which allows you to make a lot of new relationships. But ironically, a lot of these guys, I talked earlier about some of these guys being potential future teammates, but there's a lot of these guys that will be potential future rivals, which they are right now, but they will continue to be that. And say if they go to, you went to IU and someone goes to Purdue, say, to make it easy, but very easy for those rivalries to continue into college.
Yeah, which makes it fun, you know, being able to, which it would be a cool opportunity to be able to grow up being rivals with somebody and then end up playing with them. But at the same time, it'd be pretty cool to see both of us succeed and play against each other at the highest level as well.
You know, and I talked a minute ago about getting an offer from Stanford. Obviously, Indiana, also one of the schools that has offered you. That has to be special to get an offer from a school of that magnitude, but also being here living when you live in Bloomington.
Yeah, it was definitely special just because it's obviously where I grew up and all that kind of stuff. And everyone says basketball is different in Indiana, but once you get to the heart of it, it's really different in Bloomington. So it was definitely special for me and my family.
Anthony, what's next for you? What do you got coming up?
Just trying to finish out the summer with my AU team in the elite and hopefully getting as many wins as we can on the Adidas Gauntlet circuit. And then after that, just trying to rest, recover while still getting better every day.
Brother, I appreciate you joining us. I look forward to doing it again as we get closer to the season, but I can't thank you enough. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was a great experience.
You bet. I wish you best of luck. We'll talk to you again, Anthony, and tell your mom thanks as well. Thank you very much. Anthony Leal, 4-star prospect, Indiana target, amongst others as well, joining us. We appreciate him very much. Hey, we got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Mike Schumann will join me next. He was also up at the Charlie Hughes. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all the great action. We'll talk about Anthony Leal as well. Stay tuned. Indiana Sports Beat, back with more right after this.
I got a good job. I work hard for my money. When it's quitting time, I hit the door running. I fire up my pickup truck and let the horses run.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with the Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville. For the best recycling and waste removal service, turn to the area's leader, Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling, a homegrown company serving southern Indiana since 1995. Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling serves Floyd, Clark, Harrison, and Washington counties. For excellent service and peace of mind, call Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling today at 812-944-5642. That's 812-944-5642. Keep life sweet with Sweetland Waste Removal and Recycling.
All across the country, people are coming together to speed up what we can learn about health. The All of Us research program is calling on 1 million people to join us as we try to change the future of health. For your family, for future generations, for all of us. Visit joinallofus.org and find out how you can become one in a million.
All right, crew, let's get her dug.
Honey, want to give me a hand? I'm planting that tree, remember?
No matter how large or small your digging project may be, no matter how urban or rural, you must always call 811 before any digging project. 811 is our national one-call number, alerting your local utility companies to come out and mark any lines they have near your dig site. You must call 811 at least 2 to 3 business days before any digging project, so you can avoid hitting our essential buried utilities. This includes natural gas and petroleum pipelines, electric, communication cables, and water and sewer lines. So before you do this or this, make sure you do this. For digging projects big or small, make the call to 811. Brought to you by Common Ground Alliance.
This is former Indiana basketball player Greg Graham. Keep up with the Hoosiers on Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat, with Jim Coyle with you as always. Now joined by our good friend Mike Schumann from TheDailyHoosier.com. Michael, how are you?
Doing great, Jim. How are you doing?
Great, man. Lots of stuff going on this Monday. My gosh, lots of stuff to talk about. Damon Bailey goes into the National High School Hall of Fame. NBA free agency is crazy. $3 billion. I signed a 3-year, no, I'm sorry, that was Thomas Bryant. Signed a 3-year, $25 million deal. So congratulations to him. The NBA Summer League starts tonight. Juwan Moore going to be in action. Just all kinds of crazy stuff. Then, of course, the Charlie Hughes Classic over the weekend, which you were up there at Carmel and Hamilton Southeastern. And anybody who was there, anybody in Indiana high school basketball was playing in this. We just got done talking to Anthony Leal, who had a great weekend. He got to go up against Trey Kaufman, who also had a great weekend. Man, sounded like there were some great battles up there.
Yeah, there were. And I got to see Anthony and Trey Kaufman go head-to-head live on Saturday morning. That was a really good matchup to watch. They actually, even though Trey's more of a wing/power forward and Anthony's more of a shooting guard, they matched up just because, in their respective schools, they're still pretty tall guys. So they didn't play each other the entire time, but they did go head-to-head at times. And, Trey Kaufman's a really intriguing talent. He's just an incoming junior, but he's got all the attributes that are going to make him a star by the time he's a senior. He already is a star. He's already widely considered top 3 in the state in his class and already offered by IU and Purdue and others. But he's got potential to really explode. And no pun intended. If he's got something holding him back, he's not a super explosive athlete right now. But obviously he's still a young guy, and that can be developed and worked with. These kids all have trainers at this point in their cycle. And so that's something that can come along as he continues to, mature and grow into his body. But man, what an intriguing talent. When I've seen him play the couple times that I've watched him, and I know some people disagree with this comparison, but I see Jared Jeffries, just the way he looks and the way he can play both inside and out. And, he's become a much better ball handler and perimeter shooter over the last few months. I'm not saying that he's going to end up being that level of player, but that's who I see as an IU comparison.
Yeah, I mean that's a high praise, and I see that. But man, what a great opportunity that would be. But yeah, his recruitment is just skyrocketed. I mean, he gets a lot of attention now. And I remember watching him last year, and he was just raw. And man, he's really kind of come into his own, and he's become a top target. One of those players that Indiana will not only need, but almost have to have. You can't lose those kind of guys. I just don't think if you're the state school, if you want to be the dog, you can't lose those guys in recruitment. So, but obviously that's someone Indiana will be chasing. And what about the talent that is coming out of that Southern Indiana area right now? Down there, Floyd Central to Albany, Jeffersonville, Silver Creek. You had Kobe Barnes going on to Indiana State this year. You had Romeo Langford last year. You got Trey Kaufman we're talking about now, Trey Coleman from Jeffersonville, and also on Silver Creek. What's that kid's name that plays alongside Trey Kaufman, who's really getting a lot of interest as well?
Yeah, Jacoby.
Yes. His game has really picked up. So, man, Silver Creek's going to be kind of a good team again.
Yeah, they're probably the front runner for the 3A state title, I would imagine, especially with Culver moving out of 3A into 4A. I don't believe Silver Creek moved up. Someone can correct us if I'm wrong on that. But yeah, between those two, I think they've got to be the favorite for 3A right now. But you're right. I mean, I saw a little bit of Jeffersonville over the weekend as well. And Trey Coleman, I think, is a very underrated player within the state. And I think he could end up surprising people at the college level with what he's capable of doing. And then they have another kid on their roster that's just an incoming sophomore, Will Loving Watts, I believe is his name, that I think is going to end up being, a really high level, high major type of talent before he's done as well. So you're right. That area is producing, the entire state in the class of 2021 just is kind of blowing my mind by the day. I mean, the guys that, aren't even really on the radar are cycling through. I saw the Indy Star produce a top 15 players in 2021 a few months ago, and a guy's name that wasn't even on there is J.R. Kosesny out of South Bend, and he just took an unofficial visit to IU on Friday, I believe. So I think there's so many names. That's not a knock on the Star. I think there's just so many names all over the state that are, bubbling up in particularly this class of 2021 that I think people can't even keep up with it. But he's a kid that averaged 24 points a game as a sophomore up in South Bend, and 6'7", and projects more as a shooting guard. So really, the kind of skills and size that really kind of fits the modern game, if you will.
Yeah, and just there's so much talent. And then you look at the next class, of course, 2020, not quite as deep, obviously, as 2021, but 2021's that's kind of off the charts, to be honest. Because just talking about Trey Kaufman, is he somebody that could end up being a 5-star recruit? Do you think he can work up to that?
I think it's going to depend on if he can develop athletically, because he's got the size and he's got the versatility in his game. But when you watch him, he's not one of those guys that's, springs off the floor and really blows you away with his athleticism. So if that comes around through his work with trainers and development, then I think that would probably put him to that point. But I still think he could end up being the number 2 ranked player in that class. I could see him bumping past Caleb First, only because I think Kaufman projects to have a more versatile game. And if First doesn't end up growing a little bit more. What I've seen with him, his game that, it doesn't concern me, but I think could be a limitation is that, at kind of that 6'9" range, he's kind of a tweener where he could struggle to score in the paint at a high major level, whereas Kaufman, can really play inside or out, which I think gives him an advantage and may end up making him a more attractive recruit by the time it's all said and done. But 5-star might be pushing it, but these guys are still 16 years old or even younger and just going into their junior year. So those stories are still being written.
And I didn't ask because it matters, because he's already
Right.
a talent. It doesn't really matter. But the reason I asked is because you already have Christian Lander, who is a 5-star in that class. And I think in the 2020 class, there are no 5-stars in Indiana. Is that right? I don't think there's any top 100. But then you go to the next season and it goes nuts.
And it might be better for Indiana. This is kind of a loser mentality, but it might be better for Indiana if guys like Kaufman don't go so high profile that, the Dukes and Kentuckys of the world get involved with the recruitment, because we've seen how that goes. But if he's kind of just under that level where those guys get involved, it's going to give Indiana a better chance. I think people will struggle with thinking about things that way, but I think it's also just the reality of where we are right now.
You've got a couple players, Trey Galloway and Anthony Leal. Anthony Leal was just on with us, that have really obviously elevated their game. Anthony Leal, obviously, he's a really mature kid. His game is a mature game. His game matches his personality. Talking to him, he's very mature. He's respectful, but his game is mature. He's really growing. I mean, he's your prototypical college athlete. Nice 6'5", good-looking kid who is just improving and improving. He's improving his jump shot. He's definitely one of those kids that you really not need, but want, but need. You need a kid like that. He's just exactly. You want that to be the face of your program.
Yeah, and I think Anthony Leal's underestimated as an athlete too. I think he opened my eyes a couple times this weekend when I watched him. He's been struggling a little bit over the summer with some tendonitis in his knees, which if people have seen him kind of earlier in the summer, they might have thought he's not what I thought he was, but there was a reason for that. He looked he looked like he felt a lot better this weekend. I saw him, surprise me a couple times with, one hand dunks off one foot in traffic where, I wasn't sure that he quite had that in his game, but I think it's just his knees have been holding him back a little bit. So I think, both him and Galloway, I think, are going to be guys wherever they land that by the time they're upperclassmen, they're going to be very productive, very team oriented glue guys that, can really be the type of guys that carry a program. I know some people have hesitations about both of them at IU, but what I would say is, maybe they're not going to be, the top scorer or the face of the program, so to speak, but they're going to be the guys that are the foundation of, getting old and staying old, as we keep, ad nauseum saying.
Yeah, and I hope he's not listening, but I don't see there's any way that he does not end up at Indiana, him or Galloway, to be honest with you. I really don't. My only question is, which one of those guys commits first?
Yeah, I think I think if whoever commits first, it's gonna perhaps at least put some doubt in the mind of the other. Their games don't overlap completely, but they are both kind of 6'4", 6'5" guys with some similarities at least. And so in the same class, you try to make your recruiting classes a little bit diverse in terms of positions and size and talent. And so I think it's at least going to give them pause. But they both got offered 2 months ago at this point, and neither is in a big hurry to do it. So you'd think if they were truly worried about that, they would have gone ahead. I'm anxious to hear your conversation with Anthony. I got to believe part of what's going into his mind is, I know in speaking to his family that he's a above a 4.0 GPA. He's got an offer from a school like Stanford, which, I would hope would give any kid pause to, have an opportunity like that where you're not clearly an NBA talent and you could, go get a Stanford education. So I'm sure that's part of what's going into it too. And, just making sure that he understands and appreciates how serious IU is with their offer.
Yeah, luckily Indiana is also a pretty good academic institution. Not saying it's Stanford, but pretty good. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. But yeah, that's something that definitely jumps out when the opportunity. Not everybody gets the opportunity to go to Stanford. And I saw comments that he made that the offer doesn't even mean anything until he takes the SAT and they see what his scores are, because that's a tough deal there. That's like, getting into Northwestern or something, or Vanderbilt or something like that. But yeah, it's something that, fortunately, who knows if Leo can develop into an NBA type player where that's not as much of a deal. But again, at the end of the day, I just don't see him not going to Indiana. And we'll see how it turns out, though, and they do whatever is best for them. Who else played that you saw really stood out up at the Charlie Hughes this weekend, Mike?
I watched a little bit of Christian Lander, who, we've talked about before. I'll continue to say until I see otherwise that I think he's, the top player in the state, irrespective of class. I think he's just, he's got so many attributes that project, not just to college basketball, but to the NBA, with explosiveness and, fast twitch movements and a very quick release on his shot. If there's anything you see in his game that you think probably needs to be developed a little bit, it's just his jump shot. He's not super consistent with it, and he doesn't have a real high release point on it. But, those are things, again, another young guy that's got a lot of time to develop. But when I watch him, I think he could actually play in college now. I think he's that good. And so 2 years from now, I think wherever he goes, I think is going to have a guy that can start at point guard from day one, kind of a la Yogi Ferrell at Indiana. And, I think, I heard your conversation with his dad last week. He's going through that evaluation process, probably in part because of that, thinking, where's the right fit where I can go and play at day one, because he's going to be ready. So he continues to impress me. No news there. Caleb first, I talked about him. I saw him for a half of a game over the weekend as well. He's definitely improving his game from a ball handling perspective. I think they're allowing him to handle it in the open court a little bit. I don't know that he's ever going to be, a guy that, plays like, out on the wing or anything like that. Maybe one day a stretch four. I haven't seen him consistently knock down jump shots, though, so that'll be what he probably needs to work on if he wants to, move his game out to the perimeter, is to really become more of a jump shooter rather than trying to dominate the post. Because as I said earlier, I don't see him being a guy that you can count on to just feed the ball into the post and score consistently, unless he develops a crafty skill set like Juwan Morgan did.
In addition to recruiting, Archie Miller also needs to recruit a new assistant coach, as Ed Schilling has left the program. And this is a very, very important hire for Archie, I think. This is something that 2 years from now, I think will be looked back on and said, oh, there's where it kind of picked up steam, or there's where nothing happened and it continued to go the way that it went. I just think this is a very important hire, and it could be a mark in Archie Miller's tenure.
Yeah, it really is. And there's so many different ways he could go with it, which I think will be interesting to see who the ultimate person that emerges is. So far, it's pretty well kept under wraps if they do have somebody in mind. But, I wrote about it last week that, the priorities, at least in my mind, are someone that's very exceptional in the recruiting ranks, and moreover, within the state of Indiana. Now, I suppose you could argue that, between Archie and Coach Ostrom, being around for a couple of years, they pretty well got roots established within the state, and maybe they're, the right answer is to find somebody that can help more on a national level with recruiting. But either way, recruiting's a major priority. You scheme and everything is nice and important, but you got to have talent, and you got to have the type of talent, the type of guys that you want, and you have to be able to get the guys that you want. And so that's obviously a high priority. I think the other thing I talked about was just, the Archie Miller's offense, I think, could use some fresh, innovative thinking. He hasn't had a top 50 Kim Pom offensive efficiency rating in the last 5 years as a head coach. And I think when you consider something like that, it becomes apparent that, there's got to be somebody out there that can come in and give the offense a boost. And, we've seen that like at Michigan over the last couple of years with Yaklich coming in and really transforming their defense, which really helped them be a Final Four team and then a Big Ten title team a couple of years there. So I think we've seen it happen almost like what I would say is like a offensive coordinator type to come in. But the challenge is going to be, can you find an offensive guru that's connected, where you want them to be connected, and a really talented recruiter. You're probably not going to be able to find everything that you're looking for, but you're right. I think we're going to look back on this hire, in connection with other things like how well they do in 2021 and ultimately say, those were the points that, made or broke the tenure.
Yeah. If, next season, if it's kind of more of the same, there's no doubt that I'm not saying that would be it, but, the seats of both Archie and Fred Glass would be extraordinarily hot at that moment if that doesn't come to be. But let's hope that that's not the case. But yeah, you talked about whether they go inside or out. Well, they went 0 for 20 on kids that were further than 60 miles away from the IU campus.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, they've had no success at all since, I guess, who was it? Jerome Hunter, maybe, and a couple other guys in that class. But beyond that class, they really haven't done anything outside the state of Indiana. So I guess that's the question: is do you try to find somebody to help you outside the state, assuming that between Miller and Ostrom, you've got roots pretty well planted in state to kind of finish off what you've started there. But I think I wouldn't underestimate in-state, and even if there's a guy that, I threw out a name like Jason Delaney, who's the head coach at Cathedral where Armand Franklin played, as well as he's the head coach of the Indy Heat program that produced Trace Jackson Davis and, Keon Brooks, who went to Kentucky, obviously. But, that's the kind of guy that if you were really going to focus on within the state and really locking down the class of 2021, that might be just an example of the type of guy you'd look at. And as I've said before, Archie doesn't need to look outside the state at all for the class of 2021. It's that good. I mean, you could have a top 10 recruiting class just with guys coming out of the state. So don't underestimate it would be the only thing I would say about that.
Well, with that being a point of emphasis, maybe does that lead them to get someone who can really focus in state, even though that's not been that much of a problem, just because of the talent that's coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think you could just almost double down on it and say, you know what? There's also looking out to 2022. It's looking like the same thing with guys like Jalen Washington, and I mentioned Will Loving Watts, and there's a guy at Cathedral. His name's Tayshawn Comer that I watched yesterday that is going to be a fantastic point guard by the time he comes up through the ranks. So, I wouldn't personally, I would not be disappointed at all if the hire had all the markings of really emphasizing and double downing on Indiana in-state talent.
We'll certainly find out. Mike Schumann from thedailyhoosier.com. Thanks for joining us, man. As always, I appreciate it.
All right, Jim. Have a great one.
You bet. That's going to wrap up. But tomorrow, don't forget, Indiana legend, basketball legend, Hall of Famer, George McGinnis will be on the program. But Anthony Leo and Mike Schumann on today. We appreciate both those guys. And thanks to Jake. I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.